Hello and welcome to today's electrical hangout on building electrical modeling. This hangout is brought to you by Applied Software's Construction Technology Group, the premier construction systems integrator in North America. I'm Elisa Bowman and delighted to be your moderator today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you online on our YouTube channel. We will also send you an email following the webinar with a link to the recording. If you haven't already, search Applied Software on Facebook and like our page to receive the latest information and special offers. When you visit our website, asti.com, there is a complete schedule of upcoming events, webinars, trainings, and more. Please take note of our upcoming webinars. Get connected with Applied Software, making the most of your subscription to Autodesk. Thursday, June 23rd at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We will also be hosting BIM, a Revolution for the Electrical Industry webinar with a commercial contractor focus. That'll be Wednesday, July 27th at 12:30. Please also take note of our upcoming events. This Thursday, we will be co-hosting The Future of Construction, the Power of Mobile Technology. That'll be at 8 a.m. at the Boston Society of Architects in the Channel Room. Also join us on July 1st and 2nd at the Can BIM in Halifax, Nova Scotia. That'll be at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time at the Holiday Inn, Harborview and Conference Center. We will also be hosting the Customer Appreciation event here in our Atlanta offices. That's Wednesday, June 8th at 5:30 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time at our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Following the questions and answers at the end of the webinar, we will give away a $25 Amazon gift card. You must be present to win the gift card. Today's speaker is Roy Laverdette. He has been working as an electrical designer in New Orleans and Houston, primarily in the oil and gas industry, for over 35 years. He started working with the MEP Force software in 2004. For the past 5 years has been training and supporting the software in addition to his full-time job in an engineering office. Roy joined Applied Software in November of last year and is now working full-time for ASTI as the Director of MEP Force Technology. Please join me in welcoming Roy.
Thank you, Lisa. I am very honored to be here today. This is kind of a hangout, so we're going to give you a little bit of an overview, and then we're going to open up questions because I'm hoping that people have a lot of questions about the MEP Force software and what it's going to be able to do for our engineering and construction folks on the electrical side. One of the things I like about the software is it is designed to be electrical software on purpose. It's not something that was, modified HVAC or piping that you made rectangular so that we could call that cable tray. This was actually designed by an electrical engineer for the purpose of being used to do electrical engineering and design. So it works the way we work, and we're going to be able to use it in our normal workflow and work processes. Well, let's talk about how we work today. As electrical engineers and designers, we're going to collect information from other people. We usually are not going to, we're going to be waiting on P&IDs or mechanical equipment list or some other information in order to get our electrical loads so that we can start to do a load study. We develop some System 1 lines or some riser diagrams, and then we're going to be able to size our incoming buses and service requirements. Next, we're going to start looking up a whole bunch of things: motor full load amps, starter and breaker, motor circuit protector sizes. We're going to have to go in a manufacturer's catalog to find out what their offerings are. And then we need to look up our cable opacities and then derate those based on our ambient and environmental conditions that, and it's going to be based on a national electrical code. We're going to then take this information and put it into a load list, usually in Excel. Next thing we'll do is we'll hand this load list off to our BIM or CAD group, and they'll start to develop drawings, one-line diagrams, control wiring diagrams, cable schedule, termination diagrams, plan diagrams. The same information, we input it over and over and over again. And then, after we've got all of this information into all of these different deliverables and different documents in various different formats, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to come in and say, well, we need to start making some changes. So now we need to go back and chase these changes through all of the places that we've entered this data on all of these different deliverables. We're also going to have to locate our equipment, design our raceways, route our cables, calculate tray and conduit fill, check voltage drop, and then more changes are going to come up, and we're going to have to go back and redo this same data again and again. Once we've got it all onto our documents, the next thing we do is we print them all out, hand them to a checker, and he starts sitting there and comparing document A to document B to document C. And as long as they all agree, we're in good shape. But inevitably, we're going to come across some discrepancies. So you have to stop, get up from your desk, go dig through the research, find out what's the latest data, find out what documents are correct, what documents are out of date, update or mark up the ones that need to be updated, run them back through the CAD department, and hope that you can get these things out of the door before more changes occur. Well, the CARS software is going to allow us to enter the data one time in a database in various different formats, and then we will use this data to drive all of our deliverables. So there are 4 modules that we're going to talk about. At the top of the circle here is Loadmatic. That's where we're going to build our bus network and assign loads to the buses. We're going to input this data in. We can do it in a data entry form, so it's kind of the front end to our database, that it's a worksheet so that we can retrieve and save data. And it's compatible with Excel. So if we get this information in an Excel spreadsheet, we can copy and paste it directly into our DBView interface and then save that to our Access database. Once we've input this information, created this equipment tags and assigned loads, the program will size the breakers, size the starters, size the cable, and this is all based on lookup database information that we're going to allow the engineer, or the engineer is going to have complete control over the lookup data. So you're going to get these tables all filled out when you get the software, but you will then be able to verify and validate that it meets the circumstances and the conditions of your specific project or your specific requirements. Once we've got this information in Loadmatic, we're going to synchronize it to the other modules. Cablematic is going to be our cable schedule module, and it's also going to be the module that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I'm going to get back to that in just a second. If we look over to the right, Traymatic is our 3D modeling module. We'll be able to locate our equipment and design our raceways either in an AutoCAD environment or in Revit. We've also got the ability to import it from other softwares, specifically PDMS. So if you've got a third-party software that you've actually done modeling in, if you can extract that information into certain formats, we'll be able to import it directly into our database. So again, we're saving repetitive data entry and the mistakes that inherently come with those with that input. Now that we've got our equipment located and our raceways designed, we're ready to route cable. So in Cablematic, we've got a unique cable tag, a source, a destination, a cable size, and a complete raceway system in our database in our model. Cablematic can then automatically route the cables very efficiently, very quickly, and allow us to get a cable schedule deliverable that's going to be an Excel spreadsheet that we can certainly customize. Any field in the database can be pointed to our custom cable schedule. We'll also be able to do material takeoffs on our tray, our conduit, and all of our cable. We'll also be able to do feeder schedules and lots of other normal engineering deliverables that are going to come out of Cablematic. Now, the fact that we've input this information into a database in one time, in one place, is going to allow us to drive all of our deliverables very consistently from the database. And when something changes, instead of going chase it across all these different places that we've entered it into the project, we go in the database, update it in one place, one time, and then synchronize it across all of our deliverables. So all we have to do is hit the update features and reprint our deliverable drawings. Now that we've got all of this great information in the database from engineering, we can ascend it to the field with Loadmatic Builder at the bottom of the circle. The field will then have essentially a copy of the engineering database. The engineer will actually issue the database just like he issues the drawings, and there will be revision control, so there'll be a Rev 0, Rev 1, Rev 2, etc. version of the database, and the builder module and Cablematic will be able to compare previous revisions to current revisions and highlight those changes for us. Cablematic Builder is going to allow the construction team to print pull tickets, termination reports, do pull planning by assigning cables to reels, keep track of cable inventory on those reels, as well as get status of installation. They'll also be able to query the engineering database, and will be able to synchronize between the field database and the engineering database, so the entire project team is always on the same page and they always know what the other's doing, so they've got an idea of what's coming. Some samples of some of the reports that we'll be able to generate are going to be bills of material on both cable and cable tray. We'll also be able to do pull planning and pull scenarios. Southwire has a proprietary software that they've incorporated into our CARS database, so that we will be able to look at each conduit and evaluate the probability of jams, to take a look at the cables contained in each conduit. We'll be able to adjust the coefficient of friction and the conduit size and the conductor size. And this report is going to allow you on the fly to take a look at sidewall pressure and pulling tension, so that you'll be able to plan your pulls very efficiently. It's also going to highlight the areas that are of concern, so that we know exactly where our problems lie. Now, we talked about Southwire Cable. All of the Southwire Cable specs are going to come with the software out of the box, but that doesn't mean you're required to use Southwire. You can input any other cable manufacturer spec into the cable type table, and the program will automatically use whatever manufacturing catalog spec you enter in there. We're also going to provide you a Beeline aluminum cable tray spec that you can also modify to any manufacturer or any material. This is a sample of the pull and termination tickets that there are various versions of these, including an Excel spreadsheet version. What you're looking at here is a Microsoft Word version, but it's going to allow us to print out our cable pulls and cable terminations, and it's going to give us the ability to keep track of the cables that are installed and terminated. We'll also be able to identify the cable reel that the cable was pulled from, and by inputting the original length on the reel and keeping track as individual cables are pulled from the reel, we'll know exactly where we stand on our inventory. You'll also be able to keep track of the date you ordered it, it was delivered, the purchase order number, etc. Cable and wire markers will be able to be printed from our termination reports, and these cable and wire markers are going to be compatible with the Brady labeling system. We've also worked with a client who was using a different system that we were able to accommodate their needs by customizing an output as well. It's a great thing about working in a database. We can customize the reports to put it out in whatever format your project requires or needs. We'll also be able to track revisions as things change on your project from Rev 1 to Rev 2 to Rev 3, you'll be able to get printouts of the changes and the date that things would change, the current revision, and be able to evaluate how it's impacting your construction on your project. We can get lots of progress reports. This is one of my favorites because it's going to tell me the design status, the progress in the field on construction, and be able to evaluate the remaining work that needs to be done in the field. Well, that's a quick overview of the software. So now I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions that we might have received. Alyssa, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. Can multiple users use the software on the same project simultaneously?
Yes, it's a great question. Thank you. The answer to that is yes. We have it's an access database. It is multi-write, and that access database will reside on your project server. So wherever you want to place your CAD files, we'll put the folder on your server with that database, and all of your project team will have access to it.
Okay, great. Is training offered, and how would that work?
Yes, we do offer training. This program is very robust and does a lot of things. So what we would prefer to do is what I'm going to call just-in-time training. As a project is going to evolve, obviously we're going to start out building load lists and one-line diagrams. So if we were to do all of the training on day one, in 1 week, I should say, we would then have a large amount of information being imparted to the project team, and obviously the things that you are going to remember the most are the ones that you're going to use soonest. So the best way to do training that I've found through my experience is by picking a pilot project and training the team just in time. So as they get ready to start with their load list and their one-line diagrams, we'll come in and we'll do a couple of days of training of the overview of the software and Loadmatic so that you can build your load list. Then as your models start to evolve and develop and your layouts start to firm up, you want to start routing your raceways and locating your equipment. We'll come back for a second session of training, typically 2 days, where we will look at the Traymatic module, and then finally, as we get nearer to the end of the project and the deliverables on the project start to come down, we'll need to do material takeoffs and such. We'll come back to do 2 days of Cablematic training. Now, Cablematic will be the cable routing and then all of the reports that will need to be run. So by doing this, we accomplish a couple things. Number one, people are learning to use the software right before they're actually going to need it and use it on a project. And number two, since we are working in conjunction with a pilot project, a lot of the training that we're doing, we can actually use project information and create real project deliverables, which makes the training not only valuable from a learning experience, but also productive from getting project deliverables created.
Excellent. Okay. How much productivity improvement could we expect on an average project?
That's a great question. Like with any software, there is a learning curve, and the more powerful a software is, the more you need to learn and the more you need to do. So productivity, I have found, on the first project is typically going to be about the same as you're doing your work now. So the productivity gains that you're going to make on the first project are going to be offset by the time that you're going to spend learning and getting up to speed. When you get into the second and third project, obviously your productivity begins to improve dramatically with your familiarity with the software. Now, some of our advanced users, some of our most advanced users that are using the best features of the software and taking advantage of all of the best things that the software have to offer, can save as much as 50% of the man hours that you would normally spend doing the deliverables that are going to be created with cars. I don't say that lightly. I say that because I've actually done this myself. I've used it on projects, and I have had a tremendous amount of success, not only with improving the productivity, but also by having your most talented and most productive people actually spending time working in a very, very efficient manner. What that does is allows you to work with a smaller project team, which reduces the amount of coordination that you're going to need. And then finally, the biggest savings that I've found is in the checking. Because we're using a database to drive all of the deliverables, we've got a level of consistency that I have not seen before doing project work over the many years that I've been doing it. The gains that we see from being consistent, and it is tremendous savings in the checking department. And again, our checkers are some of our most experienced and honestly our most expensive employees. So we want to make sure that their time is used as efficiently and cost effectively as possible.
Makes sense. Thank you. So how hard is it to edit conduits and update cables after the cables have been routed?
Working either in AutoCAD or in Revit, the work process is slightly different. In AutoCAD, we would take the conduit that was actually modeled in using the Traymatic car software, and we would put that conduit in modify mode, and you would modify it just like a 3D polyline. So you've got the nodes that you can move around. You can use a stretch and a lot of your AutoCAD commands that you use today are still going to work in modifying these conduits. Once you've modified that conduit in modify mode, you put it back into refresh, and it will put it back into design mode. At that time, the program will automatically know that cable is contained in that raceway, so you simply refresh the cable route and it will automatically recalculate the length of that particular conductor or that group of conductors. In Revit, you will use the Revit modify, the same tools that you use today to create and modify conduit in Revit. You'll use those same tools, and again, all we'll have to do is refresh the cable route, and it will reevaluate the length required for those cables or conductors.
Okay. You mentioned Southwire Cable. Can you use other cable manufacturers or only Southwire?
Well, Southwire purchased the software from GSN Technologies, who was the original developer. That when they did that, they did not want to take away the flexibility of the software. So they've given the users the convenience of having the Southwire cable spec available. And of course, Southwire would much rather you prefer that you specify Southwire. But we all also realize that the industry is not going to standardize on the cable that we prefer. So we've kept the software open to the point where you can import any Southwire cable that you need and then use that as a template to modify, and basically the only thing that you would need to change is the manufacturer catalog number and OD of the cable at a minimum, so that you could then use any cable manufacturer's specifications.
Okay, and then the last question I have is, how does the software licensing work?
That's a great question. We have what we call a cloud license, so we will issue a block of licenses depending on how big your organization is and how many users you have. So if you were to buy, for example, 5 or 6 licenses, those licenses would be available on a cloud server, and they would be checked out as users call for those licenses, and the license then would be available and locked out by that user until it's not needed anymore, and when they exit the program, it's restored back to the cloud server so that they can use it again. So the individual software resides on your local C drives on your desktop or your laptop, which gives you the flexibility to use it anywhere in the continental United States or Canada, and also to be able to take your laptop out to the job site. So anywhere you have internet access, you'll have availability to use a cloud license. We'll also allow a license to be checked out. So if you go into a remote location that does not have internet access, you'll still be able to use the software. So you'll be able to, use as many concurrent licenses as you have available.
Excellent, Roy. We really appreciate your presentation today. Now is the time for the gift card giveaway. And let's see here. Ed Murphy, congratulations. You are the winner of the $25 Amazon gift card. So we want to thank you all for hanging out with us today. We hope you found this hangout informative and help to your business. We look forward to seeing you on our next hangout. Thank you.